Hello and welcome again to biabstands.com. This is our first video on the build of the Mini Mite. You can use this film to go ahead and watch and build your own. The main thing is about this little video podcast is to make sure that you download from biabstands.com the workbook or the booklet that goes along with these videos. We're going to begin from the very beginning to the very end, and we're even going to go to brewing, so show you how to use the equipment at the very end of this video. Hopefully we'll have the video down to 5 videos, maybe more if you guys want more. But the main thing about the booklet is to help you get started is this page right here, and that is your materials list. Okay, and the book is broken down into videos, so you know what's coming up in the next video, so you can be prepared for it. But the material list gives you a type of material, and then you're going to fill in the dimensions as we go into planning, and then it'll give you an approximate number of hardware you need to do the build the stand as we go through the process. Sorry, kind of mumbling right now, but anyhow. Today we're going to break it down into 3 little parts. We're going to be talking about materials first, and then tools, and then finally safety, because everything is very important that we're talking about today. Now you might not learn very much today, but it gives you an idea of what you need to get on and build this little Mini Mite stand. Now if you do not want a Mini Mite stand, go to biabstands.com, and you're going to be ahead of us because you're going to have all the information that you need to build your own stand. The Model 1 through Model 3 stand manuals has everything you need, including dimensions. This video is to help you go through these plans and build you the stand you desire. Okay? So what do I use the Mini Mite for? I use it for demonstrations, okay, and to show how to build. So it's a nice little custom-made stand. It does not match the dimensions because you will be setting your own dimensions and your own size of the stand. So with that, let's talk about materials. Today we're going to be talking about the primary material, which is the 90-degree 1.5 by 1.5 steel or angle iron. It's 1/8 thickness. Or if you use bed frames like I do, it's going to be 14 gauge versus the 1/8 thickness. Now this stuff is very strong. It's going to take a very long length for it to bend. Okay, to keep that in mind. This is very good material and it's easy to drill, easy to cut. Okay, so that is the first part. The second part you're going to need, of course, is the flat iron. Now this item right here is very important because you need to make sure it's 3 inches in width, okay? And you're going to be using it only on your lift system, but you're going to be using it on your shelf as support for your metal or your wood to sit on top of this, okay? Next is, of course, your shelving. And the shelving is going to be made out of plywood, okay, or solid wood. It's up to you, or you can use thick metal. The shelving is up to you how you'd like to make it. I prefer wood. It's light. It's very, very strong. The main thing about wood is make sure you coat it because you're in a water environment and you want to seal your wood. On top of that, you could take this and take a thin piece of nice sheet metal, and this is the highly polished aluminum diamond plate, and it's 0.020 thickness. Very easy to bend and deform. And what you could do is take this wood, this diamond plate, and you can cover it, and you would have a beautiful diamond plate shelf. I've done this with aluminum, and I've also done it with this diamond plate. Okay? The last thing you're going to need as part for the lift system is the 1 1/4, okay, thick or thin wall conduit, and that's going to be part of your lift system. And then you're going to need a 1-inch square stock to make your lift system. As you can see, here's the plate, the 3-inch plate I talked about earlier, 1-inch thickness, to help fasten your plate. So it's used for your shelf and you use for your lift. You need that material also. It's going to be during the planning stage is how much of this material you're going to need. On my Mini Mite, I used 2 full king and queen bed frame sets. It looks like 2 halves, but one set makes a complete bed frame. So 2 of those is all it took for me to make this stand. All right, so let's talk about hardware. Hardware is the other thing we're going to use quite a bit of. And as you notice, this is very small because you don't need that very much different types of hardware. First, let's start with the wheels. I mount the wheels with 3/4 inch, 1/4 inch dash 20, and 20 means threads, bolts, stainless steel. Try to use stainless steel hardware because you're in a water environment and you don't want it to corrode or rust. Have a beautiful paint job, but your hardware is leaving rust streaks down it. This is very good. It will not rust hardware. Next, you're going to be using screws, and of course you're going to need 2 different sizes. You're going to need a 1/2 inch, and it's still a 1/4 inch, 20 thread, and you're going to need a 3/4. And as I'm going to put underneath the camera here, you can see the difference in the size of both of those. Be your nut, and I use a plain nut, okay? And then I use a lock washer, and it could be split or like this one. It is starred, and they're very nice for really tight areas. And when you're bolting it together, if you don't have a lot of room, a star washer is great. A split works very well. Then a normal plain 1/4 inch flat washer, thin or thick, okay? And make sure again that it's coated and protected so it won't rust on you. The one additional thing I want to show you as far as nuts is I do use a locking nut. The locking nut I use is a reusable locking nut, and it is serrated on the back end. With this, I don't need a flat washer or a lock washer because it's serrated. And what happens is when you tighten this onto it, it gets into the metal on your frame, and it doesn't allow it to back backwards because of the serrated edges. Okay? So that's the hardware. It's not very much hardware, and it works out very well. Now, as far as the plain nuts, even though you're using a locking nut, make sure you use some type of Loctite, and make sure on the front or in the description it says removable. This way you can take in and out your hardware as you need to, and it won't get stuck permanently. This here is very useful. Even though I use lock nuts on my stands, I still use this as a backup. Make sure it's nice and protected. The last thing we do is after we get it all done and set, and we made our stand and we want to make it beautiful, we paint our stand. I use a 1200 degree Fahrenheit high temp primer. Normally I use gray, but it comes in various colors. Use this as your base until you know what type of temperatures you're dealing with on your stand. It's based on the way you design your stand and how hot the upper portion of your stand is going to be. It is not indirect fire. So take your time, build your stand gray, put your burner on it, put your top pot on it, put some water in your pot and click it on and see how hot it's going to get before catching or painting the final paint. What you want to do is not put paint on it, it's going to bubble or remove itself or burn. So on my stands I've been able to use a 500 degree paint, which is this Duplicolor, which is on the Model 2, okay? And it's a very, very good paint, okay? And it's with a ceramic and enamel base paint. There is other high temp paints out there. There is a 1200 degree Fahrenheit paint, but it comes in limited colors. If you're not too sure and you don't want to go through to see how hot your stand's going to get, go ahead and use the 1200 degree Fahrenheit paint. I did on my very first one. I really didn't know what temperatures I was going to deal with, and when I checked it out, it wasn't so bad, and it's still on there and it works great. The second one you can use, of course, is your good old grill paint to recoat, and I use this on the burners when I'm trying to make an impression. I clean up my burner and touch it up with the grill paint, of course, because it's in direct flame. Now, if I checked out my flame and the heat around it is not a lot on my frame, then I go ahead and use a Rust-Oleum or a metal type paint. This one is going to be yellow and red. It's called safety yellow, and this is going to be regular red. And the idea is to highlight the attachment points with the red, but the frame itself is going to be yellow. It helps with the demonstration when I explain how to build it and how to brew off of it. So that will be the color of my frame. Now, your color of your frame is up to you. You want to make it a premium stand. This is you. This is how you express yourself. This is how you brew. You want to impress. It's going to be in your paint job and in your finishing touches. The stand is a great utility stand. It's going to last for quite a long time. So you want to pick something that's very nice and something that you can be proud of as age goes on. Okay? So that is our materials. Now, let's just move on to our favorite discussion. And of course, that's going to be tools. Okay, so now we're going to talk about tools. Tools is one of the favorite things that all mechanics and artisans and everybody just loves tools. Without tools, we wouldn't have a world, right? So today we're going to talk in two different ways. We're going to talk about one is power tools and the other is going to be handheld tools. We're going to be talking about power tools first. So let's start with cutting. We got to cut the metal, right? So there's two ways of doing this. We can use a hacksaw, hand hacksaw, or you can use a sawzall. This is a sawzall, very popular with construction people. The main thing about this is you need a really good metal blade on it. And second is you need to clamp your metal to a something very solid, because this thing rotates back and forth and it's going to shake the metal. To make sure you get a good clean cut, you're going to come down straight on it and you're going to cut the metal. Don't force this, it will cut on its own. Let the tool do the job. That's why we have tools. I prefer actually the cutting wheel. This is a straight cutting wheel, or a 90-degree cutting wheel works just as fine. And what's nice about this is the shield moves around, so I can cut this way or I can cut straight. This is a multi-purpose tool. I'll be using this quite a bit. I only paid $19 for this too, so it's very relatively cheap. This one has a 4.5 diameter wheel, and on top of that, you can purchase the sanding disc that goes along with this. And the nice thing is after you cut it, you can clean the edges with this, and you don't have to file as much or sandpaper as much. Okay? Now the third type of cutting tool, of course, is if you have a miter saw. If you have a steel miter saw, all you do is put the metal blade on it, and you can also use that. But the purpose of this film is to keep it cost efficient. This is $19. That's pretty efficient. If you don't have this available to you, you can cut bed frame with a handheld hacksaw. It just takes longer. Okay? And you can clean it up with a hand file. The other half of this, of course, you're going to be doing a lot of drilling. There's two types of drills we can use. We can use a battery operated or corded drill. I prefer the corded drill. It just takes a lot of battery power to cut through steel and to clean the steel holes afterwards. So what I have done is I went ahead and got me a nice inexpensive 3/8 chuck drill, and I have a 1/4 inch bit. It's the only one I need, as long as I have a piloted 1/4 inch. Now this is the DeWalt 1/4 inch bit with the pilot in. This way I don't have to pre-drill my holes. The main thing of these on using a drill or any drill when you're doing steel is make sure that you have oil on it, and to protect it and to keep it from ruining drill bits. It can get really expensive when you do not use oil and you try to force it. Do not go high speed. Steel does not drill high speed. Once you get it cutting, try to stay at that speed and adjust accordingly, but do not go high speed. These things can get very expensive in this project if you abuse your drill bits. The other drill bit, of course, is your unibit. Now the unibit is very, very nice. What I normally do is I take my scripto, I mark my 1/4 inch, I put a pilot hole in it, I drill up to a 1/4 inch, I go in the back of the part and I do the back of it so it's a uniform and not a cone type of hole. So that's our power tools we're going to need. Not very much. Everything is pretty readily available. I haven't had anybody come back and said they can't get any of these items and that they are very expensive. There's plenty of them at yard sales. Okay. So now let's talk about hand tools now. The one thing I can say about hand tools is everything I use on this stand is readily available. You should have no problems in getting it. You could borrow it from other people. There quite a few people have these tools. So let's start with what we're going to need the most. We're going to need clamps. I have two types here. I have a locking clamp or a welding clamp, and I have a C-clamp. You're going to need quite a few of these, so try to scrounge around or purchase them. I bought these at Harbor Freight. They're dirt cheap. And you only need to hold the pieces together and to jig the stand. Next thing you're going to use quite a bit, of course, is a screwdriver. This is a Phillips type screwdriver. It's a number 3, okay? And it's because of the hardware I'm using, so adjust to the hardware you purchased. A 7/16 wrench, or open-end box-end wrench, and a 7/16 socket to put the wheels on and to hold on to the nuts. The other one I use the most, of course, is a square. You need a square to line up your legs and your corners to make it nice and square and uniform. Also, see if you can get one with a little leveler on it, okay? Because when you put in your shelf and you're adjusting your top and you're getting ready to make it nice and flat, you're going to need the bubble indicator to let you know where you're at. It's very important on a single brew vessel to get your water level nice and level so you know what quantity you're at. So it's a very important little tool. If you don't have a leveler, just go ahead and buy another little one and just stick it on, and then when you adjust it, clamp it and make sure it's level. Then drill your holes to attach your legs or to your top or your little corner pieces, whatever it takes. The next tool I use quite a bit is going to be my file. A file is important. It's going to clean all the edges of the metal, okay? And that way you don't get any splinters or anything in your hand. It'll make a nice clean deal. Now the other thing, of course, masking tape, something to mark your measurements, which leads us to tape measure. Tape measure rule, make sure that it's something you're comfortable reading. Because making sure you make accurate cuts depends on you being able to read your measuring devices. Make sure it's clear and something that you can understand. If you change dimensions, it's great. If you go to metric, make sure it's in millimeters or centimeters so you can make an accurate cut. Next thing is, of course, is going to be punches. This is an automatic center punch, and this is one you use with a hammer. You need this for drilling. When you pop this, it's going to put a little divot in your metal or a dent, okay? Or you can use a hammer and hit it with this. And the idea is when you put your drill on it, it doesn't walk, okay? So then let's get down to the sheet metal portion of it. If we're going to cover our shelves, we're going to need a pair of tin snips, and I've designed the shelf so everything is straight cuts. So you don't have to have aviation clippers or something that goes right or left. Straight will work just fine, or a really good pair of tin snips will work just fine. I also need a hammer, right? Because I'm going to bend this metal. So I have a ball peen hammer right here. But this is the most important hammer you need. This is a no-mar or a soft blow hammer. This is easy, so when you have to tap that stand leg or bend the metal, okay, you don't leave any marks on your stand or dents. So this is very, very important to get. And of course you could buy these pretty cheap. They're not that expensive to buy. So basically that's all the hand tools you're going to need. We'll probably add a couple of more on for convenience or to help show in the video. It's up to you whether you want to purchase these, but I have built the very first stand with just these tools, and that's the way I designed it. So that is tooling. So now let's talk about safety. Safety is very important. Do not drink alcohol beverages while working on these stands. Wait until after you're done or some other time to drink. You don't want to lose a finger using a cutting wheel and after having 3 or 4 Russians Imperial Stouts, okay, or barley wine. We all love to brew and we all love to drink our brews, but it's not a time to be drilling and cutting and drinking at the same time. It's very unsafe. Other thing you need to do is protect your eyes. When you're cutting and grinding and sanding, there's going to be metal, there's going to be paint, so make sure you get some good eye protection. Make sure it covers all the way around the edge of your eyes. Metal likes getting into small places, especially the little splinters, and it will get in your eye, and the next thing you know, you're in the hospital getting your eye scraped or try to clean their eye out. Second is metal is very, very, very unforgiving. It will cut you, it'll put splinters in your hands. So if you know you're handling rough edges, make sure you got a pair of good leather work gloves to pick up the metal so you don't get nice little scars all over your body like I got from messing with metal. It will cut, it'll feel like a paper cut, and a metal splinter is very, very hard to get out of your skin. So take these safety precautions very seriously. Also make sure you wear a mask. You're going to put a lot of dust in the air, a lot of metal filings in the air, and you don't want them in your lungs. So it's not very comfortable sometimes, but it's a necessary evil, and you need to wear those when you're cutting and painting and using chemicals. Make sure if you want to wear a full respirator, make sure it's rated for what you're doing. Okay? So that's the first video. Now I hope you enjoyed it. On the next video, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're getting down to the meat and potatoes, or whatever you want to call it. And we're going to start building and planning our Mini Mite stand. But before you can do that, one more time reminder, go to biabstands.com and get your booklet and join the fun. Okay? And to follow along is very simple. Even if you don't build, please participate. Okay? Go to Facebook. I have a site on Facebook. I also have one on Homebrew Talk. Look for Mini Mite in Homebrew Talk. You'll probably find it. It's going to be right in line with this. It's going to be where you can find links to the video as well as the Facebook. Also on YouTube, this is where it's going to be posted at. If you decide not to build a Mini Mite, you want to build another stand, don't be shy. Go to biabstands.com and purchase and download a plan so you can just follow along. The main thing I'm missing is input and comments, so feel free to comment. Don't be shy. I need to know what you're thinking. I need to know how to help you. This is your stand. I always keep that in mind. It is your stand. So, thank you for your support. And remember, dream, build, and brew. Thank you very much.